A little while ago, we looked at the Legend of Zelda figures produced by Toy Biz in the early 2000s. The response to that video was pretty positive, so let's keep going and look at some stuff from JAKKS Pacific. First up is Sheik from the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This character is super cool, and she comes with her harp, which she uses in the game to teach Link various warp songs. I would have killed for something like this as a kid, and now that I have money and this is a kind of thing that gets made, that's usually the main criteria I use when deciding whether or not to make a frivolous purchase. Anyway, the figure itself is super cool. I love the vivid colors and bold contrast. The eye is extremely defined, it almost looks like a sticker stuck on there. And I love Sheik's golden locks. The one strand at the front does have a little bit of a weird chalkiness to it, but that's more noticeable when put under the scrutiny of my macro lens. Overall, this figure really benefits from excellent detail. The individual strands of bandage are nicely defined. I'm talking about her headpiece here, around her chest, her forearms, and even her individual fingers. The main piece of fabric hanging over her chest is a rubbery material. You can even bend it to get a look at what's underneath. It's got the Sheikah symbol painted on the front, and I love the tatters around the edges of her shoulders and around her waist. If you look real close, the plastic is actually slightly raised here. In fact, a lot of details here have similar depth. All of these white lines separating the different shades of cloth on her tights are also raised. As for the harp, it's a little more simplistic, but it gets the job done. There's probably a universe where the individual strands were separate pieces of plastic, but having it all molded together and painted silver works just fine. I will say it's a little tough to get this thing into her hands. Yes, she can hold it and in different ways, but it's likely to fall out the minute you walk away. For articulation, this figure is actually quite great. The head can turn, and the arms can both move and rotate at 3 different points: the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist. I will say, however, the joint at the wrist seems very fragile. Yeah, there's not a lot of plastic here. I would not mess with this more than you have to. Her legs also have 3 separate points of articulation, but they don't work quite as well. Her butt cheeks seem to stop the leg from moving too far back. The knees can't rotate, but they do bend effectively. And the ankles have a slight bit of tilt and rotation. Overall, I like this one a lot. My main issue stems from the kind of cheap feeling of the plastic. If you gave this to a kid, I don't know if it would stand up to real intense play, but as a collector who just wants to display it on a shelf, it looks pretty good. Now let's take a look at Dark Link, also from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Before you say anything in the comments, I know this character first appeared in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, but this particular toy is clearly based on Ocarina of Time. I know that because this is literally a repaint of Jack's earlier adult Link figure. Anyway, using the same logic I had when purchasing Sheik, I saw this at I think it was a Spencer's where they sell novelty gifts, and man, I couldn't snatch it up fast enough. Maybe back in the day I could have dipped my Toy Biz Link in black paint, but that's really underplaying what's happening here. The figure is predominantly black, but the lighter parts of Link's costume, say his white tights, are actually gray. They also maintain the silver on his sword and shield, and even went the extra mile painting his eyes red. What a spooky guy! This just looks fantastic, and even without the Dark Link gimmick, the mold itself isn't half bad. It's definitely more accurate to the official art than the Toy Biz figure was. And while the plastic does feel a little cheaper, which is going to be consistent across all of these JAKKS figures, it has the articulation of a far more premium product. He can turn and slightly tilt his head, and like Sheik, he has rotating joints at his shoulder, elbow, and wrist. He can also bend his knees and lift his leg, although the tunic gets in the way. There's a rectangular hole in his back, allowing you to attach the sheath, which is where you can store the Master Sword whenever it's not in his hand. The shield is interesting. It has both a clip and a handle. This seems to be an improvement over the Toy Biz model, but only somewhat since it introduces some new problems. Once it's in there, it's super secure, but you never quite get that satisfying click you expect. You push it just far enough, and then stop. That's good enough. We don't want to break it. The other main issue with the articulation is his arms are always slightly outstretched. He'll never hold them straight against his sides. That's not a super dynamic pose to begin with. I'm just saying there are some limitations. I should also say the detail on this guy is pretty good. Not quite up to the level of Sheik, but not bad. You can see individual strands of hair in the mold. He's got that cool sash and belt combo. And while his fingers aren't as detailed, they got that nice classic action figure grasp. That means the sword goes in nice and clean and you're not worried about breaking his thumb. I'd also say the detailing on the sheath isn't quite as impressive. It looks kind of smooth. There are details, but they don't pop. This is probably an indication of how much heavy lifting the vibrant colors do on the Sheik figure, It's probably comparable, but because this figure is just two different shades across the whole thing, nothing really sticks out. Next is Deku Link from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. This is my absolute favorite Zelda game, which is why I made an entire video on this very subject, so check it out. This one actually sold at a slightly lower price point, so we should adjust our expectations accordingly. Back in the Toy Biz video, I briefly mentioned some rare Majora's Mask figures, which I'll unfortunately never own. The Deku Link in the set is super cool, but you know what? I think this one's a little better. It doesn't have a ton of articulation. You can only really rotate its head. And his arms, I think, can be adjusted at the shoulder, but it's very thin plastic and I wouldn't mess with it. This is almost like a little statue, He's designed in the same pose as the official art. And it's nice to have that image realized in a 3D form that I can display on my desk. The colors on this one are real nice. You got browns, reds, yellows, and greens. I especially like the darker brown, almost black, painted along his forehead. This mimics the shadowy area seen in the game, and really helps his eyes pop. Looking under his skirt, because I guess I'm a pervert, is just flat and green, but you know what? You shouldn't really be viewing him from this angle anyway. I do think they could have did something with the soles of his shoes, maybe a little yellow or a different shade of red. But I'm nitpicking. This is just a little figure I picked up at Walmart, which in no way deserves such intense scrutiny. Speaking of Majora's Mask, there it is, right on Skull Kid's face. This one I'm a little mixed on. Love the game, adore the character, figure is wonky. The mold suggests he should be in a very specific pose, but he also has a ton of articulation, which is normally not something to complain about. The problem is, unless you lean into the intended positioning, he looks like he's having a stroke. They really need to pick a lane with this one and stick to it. You can either make him cool and statuesque, or you can give him more of a neutral stance, but give options to adjust different limbs. The way it is now, it's almost like the worst of both worlds. So again, the articulation here is very much the same as Dark Link and Sheik. He can turn his head. He's got 3 points at his shoulder, elbow, and wrist, and another 3 at his hips, knees, and ankles. Also, in case you're wondering, yes, you can remove the mask. Underneath, you'll see his glowing eyes, his beak, and 2 gaping rectangular holes. Let's just call this a nice bonus. It looks terrible, but there's nothing saying you can't just leave the mask on, which is exactly what I do. I really hate to be so negative here. I'm happy to have a Skull Kid at an affordable price, but I can't show you this and not mention the ugly yellow. Looking at the official artwork, it is pretty close, so this is the obvious inspiration. Without the stylized shadows and intense contrast, it just doesn't look as good. It kinda blends with the orange, which does look a lot better, but not really. That said, the mask does look pretty good. It's got the same ugly yellow, but also a wide variety of other colors. There's some orange, blue, green, purple, and even red. And there are some very clean black and white lines to separate the various features. In terms of the mold, this figure continues to be a little mixed. I think Skull Kid's hat is very striking with its various protruding strands, and his clothes have a nice combination of flowing folds and tattered edges. I like the belts made from hoops. He's got one on his hat and around his waist. I believe they are separate pieces, but they seem to be fixed in place and don't move. To me, this is a situation of beggars can't be choosers. There aren't a ton of Skull Kids available, and at least at the time of release, this one was super affordable. I wouldn't pay inflated eBay prices to own this, but if you find it cheap and you're a fan of Majora's Mask, it's not a bad toy to add to your collection. Moving along, we have yet another Link, this time featuring his outfit from The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. This is actually the second attempt at this iteration of Link from JAKKS. I remember seeing the earlier version in stores and not buying it. He looked too much like a doofus. I don't know, maybe there wasn't enough neck or too much chin. Something wasn't right. This one actually came out much more recently, I think in 2025. I didn't even know it was a thing until I stumbled upon it at Walmart. And I gotta say, it's a massive improvement over the first version. It's obviously a far cry from something you might get from Figma, but I do think it's batting far above average for the price point. The tunic is a very eye-catching shade of blue, and I like the orange and green detailing along his forearms. Additionally, the various straps and belts and buckles are all individually painted and molded. He's got a little pouch for his rupees, and the soles of his boots are a different shade of brown. I like how the hair hangs down and is made from a looser, rubbery plastic, and his ponytail even has a little elastic to hold it in place. He comes with both the sword and shield, and man, they look incredible. The silver paint has a ton of shimmer to it. The sword has cross-hatching along the grip, and look at the raised details on the shield. The lines are straight and the shapes are cleanly defined. It's fantastic. Much like Dark Link, the shield has both a handle and a strap. The difference is this one wraps all the way around the arm, which when you compare it to Dark Link or Toy Biz Link, this is by far the best design I've seen. It's easy to put in his hand and also very secure. No matter the pose, this thing is staying put. There's also a little more in terms of articulation than the other figures from JAKKS. Link can turn his head, He can move his arms at 3 separate points, the shoulder, elbow, and wrist. His waist can turn. His legs bend a little bit, but again are stopped by the tunic. They can rotate at the thighs, which is new for JAKKS. Bend at the knees. And for some reason, he can bend his toes. This definitely isn't the best Breath of the Wild Link on the market, but for the price point, it's definitely something to consider. If you like the design, but you're too cheap to shill out for one of the more deluxe offerings, this'll do in a pinch and look great on your shelf. Oh, and bonus fact, at the same Walmart where I picked this guy up, I saw another Link, same basic toy, but instead of coming with the shield and Master Sword, he had a Knight's Broadsword. I guess it's neat that they're giving you options, but who would pick a broadsword over the Master Sword? And that one doesn't come with a shield either. Crazy, who is that for? And finally, the last action figure we're going to look at today is Princess Zelda, also from Breath of the Wild. This one was released alongside Link and might be slightly better overall. Let's just breeze through articulation since it's almost the same as Link. The arms have the same 3 points, shoulder, elbow, wrist. She rotates at the waist. And her legs are back to having 3 points. Her thighs don't twist, but she can bend her knees and raise her toes. Zelda's accessory is the Sheik slate. It looks like it does in the game, and since the details on the surface are meant to be more of an LCD display, JAKKS decide to put a sticker on instead of working it into the mold, which makes sense logically. It just looks a little cheap. Zelda has a huge flowing mane of blonde hair that goes all the way down her back. It's a softer, rubbery plastic, but I wouldn't bend it. The hair also comes down by her ears in much the same way as Link's, and her outfit is similarly detailed. She has a Triforce crest beneath her chest. There's some intricate texturing along her belly, and I love the stitches going down the sides of her pants. Zelda also has her own little pouch. It's bigger than Link's, and the leather flap really looks like you could open it, even though the whole pouch is a single piece. Her boots have a little bit of silver paint right near the top, and when you take into account the gold of the crest and the nice contrast of yellows and blues throughout, she has a very regal appearance. Overall, the application of paint is very precise. You can even see the skin of her fingers poking out from her gloves. Since this came out alongside the Link figure, I think I have very much the same conclusion. It's a very cool toy for the price. And in terms of accuracy, they both get pretty close, but I think this one absolutely nails it. So if you had to choose just one, I'd go with Zelda. And now it's time for the bonus round. Yeah, I've got these 2 packs of micro figures from The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker HD. The specific branding says Microland, Small World, Big Fun. The back of the box shows playsets that you can purchase and customize, but since I don't have any of those, I left these in the package. And that's probably where they're gonna stay. I call it the collector's conundrum, you know? This is a relatively old product. It says 2015. I'm never gonna sell it, but I know it has more value in this form. And you know, I got enough Zelda stuff littering my shelves. I don't really need 6 more micro figures to complete some kind of display. So that's what I'm left with. 2 little packages that look kinda cute. One set has Link in his pajamas, his sister Errol, and his grandma, and the other has Link wearing the hero's tunic, Makar, and a bokoblin. So yeah, this is all the Zelda stuff I have from JAKKS Pacific. And I gotta say, a lot of it is really cool. Again, as with any kind of toys, these feel a little cheaper than something you would have bought in the 90s or early 2000s, but definitely the effort is there. I was a little disappointed when JAKKS made the shift from the world of Nintendo to more of a specific Super Mario branding, but I guess these relatively new Breath of the Wild figures do show that there's still potential for JAKKS Pacific to branch out. But hey, I want to hear from you. Do you own any of these figures? Are there any you have that I don't? What are your favorites? What do you think of JAKKS Pacific as a brand? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And hey, thanks for watching.